What's up, everybody? I am Jayme Bedingfield. You are listening to my podcast, Too Many Words, a place for the creative and the odd, the dreamers, the worriers, the commuters, and the sofa workers. Welcome to the show. This is going to be a little bit different this week. December is a crazy month for everyone, and I was having a little trouble fitting a talk in the window that I needed for this week. So I am trying to accomplish just so much right now. My head feels like it's going to explode. And the end of the year just provides this rush, different from the holiday rush, but together they form a strong vibe, that's for sure. So I got this idea about the Interlude episode, a short episode without a guest where I talk a little more, do 2 reviews instead of 1, and initially I got really excited about the concept, something to mix it up and help keep the weekly episodes despite schedules. And of course, when it came to planning the episode, I got all choky and nervous and wasn't sure about it anymore. So if you guys are like, hey, no guests, this is lame, I'm sorry. But, I get ideas and I try them out, and some of them work and some of them crumble into a dusty pile. And sometimes those specks will sit and eventually grow another offshoot of a random idea. And only some do that. So yes, we will find out which idea category this falls into. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. And next week, I have owner and chief editor of Apex Magazine, Jason Sizemore, on the show. So, yep. And book talk. I just finished 2 amazing books. I read them at the same time, and it filled my brain with wonderful things. It always feels good when I can pull off a simultaneous fiction and nonfiction read. And, for the fiction read, Kevin Hearne's new epic fantasy, A Plague of Giants. Oh my God. This is a classic. I'm calling it. That's it. Timeless and timely. If you like epic fantasy, read this book. And if you don't, reading this book might change that. So without any spoilers, I'm going to call out some aspects that I loved so much. And first of all, the format. I just love how Hearne tells the story. Every scene is chock full of character and story arc importance, and it webs with the unique and clear world building just so well. And all I wanted to do was read this book. My DVR is bursting at its seams and giving me cranky notifications because the only story I've cared about lately was this one. I can't wait to read the next in the series. I'm happy there's going to be more. There are a lot of characters, and all of them have their own beats and differences. And Hearne manages juggling all that just flawlessly, in my opinion. I have 2 favorite characters, of course. There's always those characters where you're like, and Abhi, which I could be pronouncing that wrong, and Goran Morgan. Again, I'm not going to get into too many details because I am determined not to give anything away. I will say their voice and arc just mystified me, and I found myself just aching to know what happened to them next. And writer to writer, nice job, Hearne, because I cared about everyone the whole time. I give this 6 stars. The arc is so good. Hearne's story weaving and fluid and warm and sometimes humorous prose just washes over you. This book belongs in the same conversation as Lord of the Rings and the Kingkiller Chronicle. Like I said, it's a classic. It's called The World Building Alone Should Be Talked About in Length in Many Creative Writing Classes. Vivid detail that never slows down the story is, it's a hard place to get to. So yes, A Plague of Giants by Kevin Hearne. Go pick it up. Tell your friends. And it would be amazing to see this as a television show someday. I also, I read Damn Fine Story by Chuck Wendig as my nonfiction read. And I know what you're thinking. Writing book, should have guessed. Really, guys, I can't say it enough. Reading books on the craft, listening to other writers talking about writing just really helps keep the important concepts and nagging thoughts in an active churning place. And we want the churning. And out of all of Wendig's writing books, this one focuses most on the actual storytelling itself and makes a lot of references to movies such as Star Wars and Die Hard as a really clear point of reference for the concepts he's talking about. This book totally rocks. It's full of great information. And even if you're already aware of a lot of it, it's a fun read just to keep certain things at the surface. The story is king to the writing fiction thing. And as I move forward in my career, I notice how even with the drafting and the marketing and the rejections and the queries, it all comes down to the story. What does it mean? How does it feel? Do we care? And this was an awesome book to read as I make my way through this dragon-sized rewrite I keep talking about. Sometimes reading a sentence that talks about the importance of creating tension can just shake the right idea loose from its dark and stubborn corner. So yeah, writers, this is a book I'd pick up for sure. And check out Chuck Wendig's other writing books if you aren't familiar with them. He's a big go-to for writing thoughts and advice for me. So I couldn't recommend his words of wisdom enough. He is chock full of just awesome, writing advice and has a really clear, humorous, and perfectly crude way of getting the information to sink into your brain. And also, as it is holiday time, both books would be just really great gifts. So, how is it going with you? This time of year, sometimes, it adds a lot of stress and extra responsibilities to people's plates. More spending can lead to financial strain, which leads to stress. Dealing with family can lead to stress. Guilt from the holidays can lead to stress. This time of year has its way of, making you miss people, making you think of things that you don't normally. And I can't get through any Christmas related activity without thinking about my dad. He really tried to make Christmas special despite all that was always going on. And he didn't always pull it off because other forces are just stronger. They were just stronger than him, but he did try, for a while. I also remember when he stopped, suddenly the jig was up. I was older and there was no reason to pretend that we're not broken. And I think all of this while I create warm memories with my growing family, and the memories, are this sweet and comforting, but painful mix. And, it's a lot like drinking too much eggnog, actually. And I never thought I could find a symbolic meaning of eggnog, but I think I just did. And, just like anniversaries, holidays make us, they make us think. They make us remember. And of course, I thought of my best friend's kids who have to celebrate Christmas without her as I decorate the tree with my kids. And, if you are having a hard time, be there for yourself. Talk to someone that you trust. Remember, everything is a phase. Everything passes. It's really hard to realize that when you're in it, when you're in the middle of something really hard. Take that concept to writing. Every phase of the project can feel like this forever cloud of chaos. If you get blocked, if your fingers are on fire, or revision that feels like it's going to swallow you whole, it's all a phase. Everything is temporary. This time, as I tackle this epic work in progress of mine, I am also writing a lot of short stories, and I'm trying to stay up on my blog more, because working through those, thoughts on a personal level, it helps loosen ideas and arcs and issues that are clogging up my creative flow. After I had guests and Thanksgiving and had to reorganize my life a little bit afterward, I sat down to write a blog post about how I don't remember, what I was, starting to write the blog post about. But I do remember thinking, this is great. I need to do this every day. I need to make time for writing outside of my fiction projects. Other random obscured thoughts circled my mind in a series that eventually forms some sort of long, drawn out idea or concept, one after another, like a flip book of procrastination. All my mind wandering halted when I realized I wasn't writing anything down. I also do this when I'm drafting. Think and not write. I'm forward, not present. And you hear me talk a lot about listening to the gut whisper and how part of knowing your process is understanding how every day is a little or completely different from the day before. Thinking and writing usually means thinking and not writing. For me, usually means one of three things. I haven't given myself enough backtrack thinking, or free writing is necessary at this time. I need to just loosen things up, or I need to scribble down just inside the arc for a short that won't be quiet, or I just need to eat lunch. And the common thread between all of that, the first three anyway, not the lunch, is that I need to be doing, well, I guess lunch too, but that I need to be doing something other than what I can't help but just stare at. If I'm just staring at it, it's time to switch it up. Even just moving from computer to notebook can help. NaNoWrite came to an end and I completed my 50,000 words. Actually, I got 56,478 words, but who's counting? Wait, isn't that the point? Yes and no. Everyone who sets out to do NaNoWrite has, their own reason, even if it's just the camaraderie of committing to write 50,000 words in 1 month with a collection of writers all around the world. I like that feeling. I needed that boost to get me working on this incredibly intimidating dragon-sized rewrite. And now as we enter December and I'm nearing the midpoint of the project, I am just going to keep going until this phase is at an end. My life sometimes feels just too full lately, or always. And it's not a complaint. It's just there's always something to do. And we as a family unit are operating at a faster frequency with 2 kids in elementary school and activities they want to try on top of both me and my husband working, something many juggle. It's tough for me to see, either of my kids have a stressful time. And at the end of the day, my main goal as a parent is that my children feel supported. The world is a tough place. And I remember how hard school was. And gosh, I barely made it out. I guess technically I didn't, considering I went and got my GED. But, I do my best to be present when my kids are and to give them just a steady backing, because not having one as a kid just makes everything harder. So when I sit down to write, to work, I think of it as for me, because I love it and need it. And I do not treat it like the blistering, humbling hell it sometimes feels like. It's tricky balancing life and work and family and self and breathing. I'm still working on grinding towards my goals. So when I look at a day where I wasn't as productive as I'd like to be, or ended up needing to do a whole bunch of things I didn't count on in my 2 a.m. planning, it can feel impossible to accept all that I did do. I don't know if you guys feel that ever. It's hard to see accomplishment when it's this gradual, forever process of building a writing career, of writing a book, revising, of building a family and a life, whatever. Sometimes it just, doesn't jive or flow, or I really just need an apple and a walk to smooth the thoughts out. And stepping away feels like the worst thing in the world because it feels like failure. Repeat after me. Taking care of yourself isn't failing. As I mentioned more than once lately, I've been managing my anxiety disorder, and I have known that anxiety is a dragon I have to tame. It's been present my whole life. I had terrible panic attacks when I was a teenager and a young mom, and socially, forget about it. But after the last year and a half, my anxiety built a megacity, and now I need to practice tools and exhaust myself with yoga so I don't chew on my leg like a dog that needs a walk. I've been practicing yoga most mornings before the house is awake, and I push myself and breathe and gradually working up to a handstand. I'm close, and one of the schools of yoga is Hatha, which is it's basically holding different positions, one after another, until you're sweating and tingly and you've forgotten what's plaguing you because you're tired and starving. When I am doing a side plank with my knee to my nose, all I'm thinking about is not pulling a muscle I didn't know I had, and I'm breathing through it. I know what my stomach is doing. Every muscle holding me up is at the forefront of my mind. And once I settled into the moment, once I've mastered it, it's time for the next position. Warrior 3 is my favorite. But I'm not telling you to do yoga, but the act of fully being present and then repeating it with different positions is a lot like the mind needed for drafting. Ease back on the toes, write down the character's nagging motivation. Pull in the navel, fold into the scene. Find out what's important. Lower back pinches so you ease forward. Your hand is on your calf instead of the floor. Switch voices. Jot that idea down and then come back. It's all a dance. All of it. And I'm getting ready right now for a 3-day sprint. I will be trying to get through this next patch of really intense scenes, including the big midpoint that I'm built up in my mind. And, I will be doing little else. And I've been doing a lot of planning and thinking and trying to build up as much tension as I can muster. And currently I'm feeling a bit bloated with ideas. So it's going to be great to sit down and lose myself for a bit in this world that I've created, that I love. What are you working on? I get these messages or mentions from some of you when I ask a question on the show or say something that settles with you more than others. And I love that peek into what this show does for you and to hear that it helps to hear my writing journey. And that's, that means a lot. And I have a few questions and comments from listeners that I will be reading on next week's show. So if you have something you'd like to include, definitely reach out. And, this wraps up this week's interlude. You can follow me on Twitter at @meBettingfield and the show at Too Many Words. And find me on Instagram at Jayme the Scribbler for my words and written reviews. You can go to my site, tmwpod.com. And you, of course, can visit patreon.com/too-many-words and support the show. I'm working on a mini series fantasy podcast that I am working on. And that will be available exclusively to Patreon supporters starting at the end of January. So definitely look out for that. I'm really excited. And I've had this concept for a while, and it'll be great to share it with you guys. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.